can make a thug really cry. Make a hood classic sound like a sweet lullaby.
Day 22, second to last Yaoi OVA review, and today's is a doozy. I hope. Today we're gonna dive into Okane aka No Money, relatable. Story is as follows. Yukiya Ayase is a gentle, kind-hearted, and innocent university student, so he's doomed. The only relative he has left, his cousin Tetsuo, betrays Ayase by selling him to the highest bidder in an auction with hopes of making an enormous profit to be able to pay off his debts. Somuku Kanou, a bad-tempered though very rich loan shark, comes to Ayase's rescue and buys Ayase for an impressive 1.2 billion. Kanou apparently knows Ayase from something that happened between them in the past, but Ayase cannot remember who Kanou is, nor does he understand why he saved him. In a desperate effort to keep Ayase close to him, Kanou demands the debt be repaid in full and suggests the perfect way to do it, by selling his body to Kanou for 500,000 each time. Ayase is horrified in the beginning, but something soon begins to grow between them that can't be bought for any price. This one's got a whopping 4 episodes, so let's just cut to the chase. Basically, like, all that happened in this episode is basically a description. So in talking about how Ayase was essentially trafficked by his cousin Tetsuo, Kanou gets mad, and then that causes him to then Ayase, and then immediately regret it, like, in the midst of it. And that's when he makes the offer of, like, every time you sleep with me, like, 50,000 yen. Okay. So Tetsuo is in trouble with some casino, and so Kanou is bringing Ayase to the casino, but Ayase thinks it's like, oh, we're gonna save Tetsuo, but he purposely wants to put Ayase in this position in order to, I guess, showing either how bad Tetsuo's situation is or probably Tetsuo getting killed, something like that. So that's the first episode. I mean, I can see why, obviously, it's so controversial. The art of the manga is, like, really nice. This anime, like, does it absolutely no justice. I think Kanou is an interesting character study of, like, the realities of, like, what abusive people in relationship, how they perceive themselves regardless of what they physically are doing and how it affects their partner, because he clearly in his mind is like, I care for Ayase, but everything he does in order to care for Ayase, like, abuses and violates Ayase. Every time he says something that's, like, dramatic or threatening, in his mind, he's like, what am I saying? And so it's just, that's what, like, the all over the place, but I think also that's just kind of like the level of, like, if someone has infatuation with someone that is, quite frankly, unhealthy, that, like, they can then enact abusive behaviors. Kaoruko is, I don't want to say the word, but is called a transphobic slur, in the subs at least, and then is also labeled an okama. I'm going to refer to her with she, her pronouns. If that's incorrect, I apologize. But she also is just kind of like stealing the show right now. I often find these characters to be like the voice of reason. Like, I'm also thinking of, I forget her name, but the friend in Super Lovers, like, she also is of like a same level of like, where she's like, what the fuck is going on with this relationship and shit like that. It's kind of an interesting juxtaposition where you'll often have like an okama or a trans character juxtaposing with how people around them treat them as being other, inferior, being transphobic towards them, misgendering them, calling them different things, when they're like the person who, like, logistically and morally, you could say within the story, the person in the right in terms of observations and whatnot. I appreciate Kaoruko so far. I'm looking forward to more of her. The twins are hot. Let's just get into episode 2. They finally go to the casino. There's this whole thing where the owner is trying to now buy Ayase. They play Russian roulette. After that, Ayase is brought to the office where Ayase properly meets Kaoruko, which is hysterical. Kanou gets jealous because Kaoruko was able to talk to Ayase so easily, and so he asks Kaoruko, hey, what should I do to help this? And she gives him, like, a pet training book. And so then the course of the episode is just him trying to, like, keep his distance until ultimately he gets Ayase drunk and they have sex. And then it ends. Kaoruko and Kanou have, like, an exchange where simultaneously is like, but you're gay. But you're homo, to Kanou, but Kanou continues to say, no, I'm not. But then Kaoruko basically elaborates that Kanou identifies as straight, even though Kaoruko knows that he is gay, but at the same time, she also says that he doesn't acknowledge trans rights, which is a random line. Also, his yaoi hands are fucking huge. And that's, I think, where I'll leave episode 2. I still have 2 more to go, halfway. The story has kind of shifted to be more so from Ayase's perspective, it seems, which kind of frames the whole thing. We'll get into my notes as I go. So Ayase is basically just not down with having sex with Kanou whenever he wants, and so ultimately he asks Kanou if he can get a real job. That's where we get introduced to Kanou's younger brother, Gion. He's a cameraman and shoots Kanou basically proposes that Ayase do and at the same time, this man named Yoshizumi, him and Kanou get into a tiff at the hotel. Kanou and Ayase have a moment. Kanou is like, oh, you stay here for the night, I'll come pick you up tomorrow. In doing that, Ayase gets kidnapped by Yoshizumi's people. Gion has also been kidnapped, but then Kanou shows up to save them. Ultimately, it's revealed that Kanou didn't bring the money and the tape that they're looking for. He brought the daughter of the politician. which is wildly unhinged. Interesting that the whole story kind of shifts to Ayase's perspective, and then also not on top of that, it also feels to me like it's gotten darker in terms of the vibe, the music, and how Kanou is even presented. It takes a much less comedic approach, like significantly less comedic approach, which is like a stark contrast in how they view what is the exact same situation. Kanou's is much more like goofy. For this perspective, it's like it comes off a lot more dark. Like you really can see Ayase's lack of consent in everything. Kanou was clearly leading Ayase along in order to like, oh, well, if you want to do a job, you could do this, and this will make the same amount of money. But then also he's basically labeling all the negatives of that same experience. Obviously like a carrot and stick, like, oh, well, yeah, I'll give you a job, but then like, giving like the worst possible job in order to basically coerce Ayase into not taking an alternative job. Anything else to say? Gion is my type. That's my man right there. I high-key kind of ship him with Yoshizumi. I would kind of like to see that develop. I don't know if there's any additional couples in this. I do not know that. I will say at this point that I do not know that I would consider. I don't know that I have much interest in the story beyond what I will be watching in the anime. I will say this is probably the one I like the least out of everything so far. Also, Kanou had like the wildest man spread I think I've ever seen in anime. So I just had to mention that. Wrap it up with one more. See you at the end. I won't even really say anything about the specials. They were just kind of like goofy 1-minute episode things, so fairly negligible. As for episode 4, just the conclusion of the kidnapping plot with the daughter and also Ayase. Through reasons, it gets resolved. Oh yeah, well Ayase still took a sex drug, and so Ayase is like, and then ultimately Ayase and Kanou have sex. Yeah. I think I'm gonna just jump to the score now before I get into the rest of my notes, but I think I'm probably gonna give it like a 5 out of 10. This is easily the one I have enjoyed the least out of everything I've watched this month. Fake had its issues, but like Fake had a level of intrigue to it that I would have entertained. BNSH was incredible from the jump and then kind of lost me along the way. And then Barao, a great teaser for a story that I would be intrigued to check out any other time if I had the time. But this, it's just like, I don't care for Ayase, who I think is Natsuki Hanae. Oh no, Jun Fukuyama. I was close. Y'all will know this about me, and we will actually talk about pretty much every BL that I've watched and read at the end of the month. My enjoyment of any BL story, regardless of what goes on in the story, whether it's wholesome fluff, whether it's pure erotica, whether it's like problematic and dark or whatever, entirely hinges on my enjoyment of at least one of the two main characters. And in this instance, I just didn't particularly care for Ayase really at all. I can empathize with Ayase's situation, but as a character, I'm not attracted to Ayase, and just like Ayase's personality and existence, don't particularly care for it. Sorry, some shit's wrong with my eyebrow. Kanou is attractive, but that's about it, because I feel like he just is very wishy-washy. I prefer a Seme. Again, in any context, to like know what they want. And like know what they want and like go for what they want. Like I like a decisive Seme. This felt kind of like vaguely like a crossover between Chobits and Cardcaptor Sakura, where it's like Chi and Toya. Like that's what it felt like to me. I guess I haven't seen Chobits yet, but one day. Kaoruko up here, Gion right below. Like, 2 highlights of it. I absolutely love them. If they were in their own separate story, I would absolutely watch that. If Gion was a key romance, then I would absolutely read that. This is not reality, so it is what it is. Don't think I mentioned at any point, but this is another series with Invisidic. I don't think that there's going to be any non-Invisidic BL by the end of this month. I feel like it's a fairly recent development for there to be some level of visible in BL anime particularly. That's about everything. Again, cumulatively, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Not my favorite thing. The specials I'll give a 6 out of 10 because they were a little goofy, but like nothing I need to really like say anything. It's like little 1-minute episodes. What am I gonna analyze all that? Nobody gives a fuck. So that was Okane Ganai. If you've got no, if you've seen, I don't know. I mean, I know how people feel about this because again, this is one of the more controversial BL OVA that has ever been released. So I don't really exactly need to know what people's opinions are, quite frankly. What I am curious about is, what do you think the last one of the month is going to be? It's a level of controversial. I don't think, I don't know if it's as controversial as this, but I know it is fairly beloved. That's all I will say on it. So feel free to guess what you think the final BL OVA review will be in the comments below. If you've got no money, at least sign some of the petitions below in the pinned comment. I know there's a shit ton at this point. I just keep adding to it, but there's always new ones every time I post. So make sure to check it if you got no money. But if you do have money, make sure to donate to any of the organizations linked in that same pinned comment or any of the campaigns, or to me! Day 23 of Pride is tomorrow, and we are hopping across the ocean away from Japan and tapping into neighboring China as I list the top 10 Danmei Donghua. 10 Danmei Donghua, Chris? Really, there's that many? Yeah, have you been paying attention? Bye!